glad you're joining us this week. I'm Lena Banks. I'm a financial planner and small business coach here in Austin, Texas. And joining me today is Crystal again. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So today we are talking about money dysmorphia, which Crystal is like a super smart lady and put me onto this idea. And so, I will say that this came from an episode from the Glamorous Trash podcast.
Yes.
And Crystal is, like, I will say, one of the top podcast recommenders in my friend group. I love new podcasts. So tell us a little bit about Glamorous Trash and how you found this episode.
So I've been listening to Glamorous Trash for a while, and it is mainly a celebrity memoir podcast. Chelsea reads celebrity memoirs, and then she has a guest come on, typically someone who's like really interested in that particular celebrity, and they talk about the memoir. And she actually wrote her own memoir recently.
Okay.
So she's just always been really interested in that and started a podcast about it. And now she's doing these viral article episodes in addition to talking about celebrity memoirs. And this one came up. It was a New York Times article, "Are you the only one who's broke, or is it money dysmorphia? The boom boom aesthetic meets the gloom and doom of market turmoil," and it was written by Emma Goldberg. And I hadn't read this article, and so I just was like, oh, that sounds really interesting. I wonder what money dysmorphia is, and I tuned in, and Chelsea and her guest had just a really, like, one of the things I like about her podcast is that she infuses so much humor into the topic she is covering. So it was just like a very fun conversation, but it was also very real.
Yeah.
They critiqued the article, and I was like, oh, I think this is what I've been feeling. So in the article, she writes about social media feeds flashing other people's trips and restaurant reservations, which feel more over the top than ever, thanks to what trend forecasters call the boom boom aesthetic. It's a recent embrace by fashion labels, influencers, and ordinary spenders of lavish old money consumption, like Gordon Gekko-inspired suits and endless once verboten furs. So that's a quote from the article. And I just thought it was so interesting because she's talking about this anxiety that so many of us are feeling about our money in this economy.
Right.
And I just thought, I think that this is something I've been feeling. Because in the article she discusses the influence of social media feeds. And like a lot of people will put these lavish purchases and luxurious trips on their, I don't know, like Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is they're using, TikTok.
Yeah, so on a previous episode, we talked about the cost of connection, and actually we decided to go back and do a little bonus on that episode because I read a similar story in the New York Post about everybody going out to the Hamptons and paying $4,000 to go out to the Hamptons. And these are like 20-somethings, so it's like you probably don't have $4,000 to just like spend.
I did not have that in my 20s.
But they needed that. They needed that so that they could have the Instagram shot and like follow this influencer. And yeah, so
do you want to define money dysmorphia?
Yeah, let's do. So money dysmorphia is a term for the feeling of having a distorted perception of one's financial situation, where one's perceived financial standing doesn't match reality. It's characterized by feelings of financial insecurity or anxiety, even when objectively one's finances are stable or healthy. This can manifest as overspending, excessive worrying about money, or avoiding spending altogether, even when you're financially able. Individuals with money dysmorphia may feel wealthier or poorer than they actually are. And I think that last part is really important.
Yes.
Because I suspect, and this is one thing that I kind of counsel people about, a lot of my clients, and especially if you are listening listening to this podcast, I suspect that you are probably wealthier than you imagine.
Yeah.
And if you are super, super concerned about money, you might be suffering from this.
Yes,
Then there are the other folks who do feel like they are wealthier than they actually are,
Right, yeah.
and that is probably a problem. So, I think that's probably the thing that leads to the overspending.
This article and the Glamorous Trash podcast episode of them critiquing this article, I was like, oh, I think that I have felt this money dysmorphia thing that they're talking about, because now I'm Gen X. I'm not, a millennial or Gen Z or any of that. My parents are baby boomers, very practical, which we've talked about. So I'm coming at this, from a different place than the people who were interviewed in the article are.
Right.
And I'm also not a big social media person. I'm not on Instagram. I have a Facebook account. I check it a few times a year. I'll put up like a post at Christmas, maybe New Year's, something like that. So I'm not seeing this on social media feeds. I'm seeing this in real life.
Right.
I'm just like, as
Oh.
someone living in Austin, Texas, driving around, my husband and I our conversation will often go like this. Is everyone loaded but us? Does everyone have like tons of money and we just don't?
Yeah.
Or like, what's happening? Because, we'll see people driving around in Ferraris and like, I don't know, just really, really like Lamborghinis, really nice cars, and they're also sending their kids to private school, and they're also vacationing in Paris, and they're also, I don't know, just living very extravagantly, which, I mean, you know what? If you have that money and that's what you want to do, good for you. That's awesome.
I think that's the assumption that might be
incorrect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The scary thing is that many Americans don't have the money to spend the way that they are spending.
Yes.
That's why we're more and more and more in debt.
Yes.
Everybody's living off their credit cards. People are living off of home equity. People are living off of lots of sources that you guys are probably not tapping into.
No.
Honestly, more power to you if that is how you afford your lifestyle, if that's what you're going to be doing. From my perspective, I'm a financial planner, so I'm like, what's happening in 50 years? If you can spend that $4,000 to go to the Hamptons and take a yoga class that you just like have to be in, tell me what that looks like in 50 years. Because if you are going to be basically destitute because you did all of your spending early on, that's a sad state of affairs. And so I think that is the assumption that might not be the right one. And it's funny that you mentioned like you're doing it in real life, like you're seeing it in real life. Well, social media is giving people so much more access to what real life looks like for people who are not part of their social circle.
Yeah, that's true.
That all of a sudden you think you're supposed to be in that space or doing that thing or buying that car. So that's another aspect of it is back in the day, if you were in real life, you were amongst people who basically had the same as you did. You were keeping up with the Joneses in the same neighborhood of economic spending. Now you can see.
Yeah, you can see what Kim Kardashian's doing.
Exactly. And I think it is driving not just people who can maybe stretch but maybe shouldn't stretch.
Yeah.
I think that's driving a lot of people to spend on things that maybe don't make sense for them to spend on.
Yeah.
But then also for people who are like, hold on a second, like I thought that we were doing good. Like why aren't we doing that good? It can cause a lot of anxiety, obviously, because you're wondering how do you actually match up? How do you compare?
Yeah. And apparently there's also something that's happening on social media that's affecting younger people where, I mean, basically, I guess influencers are saying, you know what, the world's ending, you know, global warming and political unrest and all of these other things. Just spend your money. Don't worry about saving, because there's not going to be a future, so don't worry about it.
Right.
Which is also really troubling.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Very troubling.
Yeah.
So all of these factors are feeding into all of this anxiety, and I think it is a cyclical thing, right? Like, you see it, then you spend, then maybe you're guilty about spending because you know you don't have the money to actually do that, or you're panicked about paying it back, or you see that you don't spend because you're like, I can't afford that, and then you are maybe unhappy or feeling unfulfilled, or feeling like, oh my gosh, you know, why is everybody else getting to have fun in life and I'm not, and it's terrible.
Yeah, so like the dysmorphia can go either way.
Yes, exactly.
You can either not have a lot and decide, screw it, I'm just going to spend what I don't have and not worry about the future. Or you can actually have quite a bit and be doing well and think, oh my gosh, I have nothing. I can't spend anything, and you're miserable.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really important, that dynamic of, man, damned if you do, damned if you don't, almost. Because I think it speaks to how our minds like just behave around money in general. So I wanted to bring up like this study from Bankrate and Psych Central, which says that 42% of U.S. adults say money is negatively impacting their mental health. So if 42% of us, and that could be either side of that spectrum, where they feel like they don't have enough, and they just spend anyway, or they feel like they don't have enough and they like scrimp and like struggle with it, that can cause like a lot of negative feelings. And these money related activities that they were talking about, that 42% of adults say negatively impact them, are not actually negative activities. I just want to like read a couple of them. So just looking at your bank account. Looking at your bank account causes 50% of these people to have negative reactions. Negatively impacts their mental health. Paying a bill, making a purchase, just making a purchase, having to discuss money, getting paid. Which I was like, okay, so like you're getting money in the door and it's still making you feel bad. Looking at their investment accounts. And then finally looking at social media. So I think it's clear that it doesn't really matter how you're interacting or engaging with money necessarily. It's something that you're going to feel some kind of way about, no matter what is actually happening. So I think that's why it's important to kind of stop thinking about it as, do I have enough? Do I not have enough? What should I spend? What should I save? Oh my gosh, how do I compare to this person or that person? And so at the end of the show, I want to tell you all one thing that I think might help with kind of alleviating some of these anxieties and fears.
And the saying, what's the saying? Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
So I try not to compare my situation to other people's a lot, but I mean, you know, it's somewhat unavoidable. Especially when you're driving around and you're just, or you like know these families through whatever circumstance, and you're like, wow, how are they doing that? How are they swinging that? Because like we can't do that. And so I think what my husband pointed out to me is what you were saying, like a lot of these people might be in a lot of debt.
A lot of debt. They might be, you know,
they might have family money that we don't know about.
That's right.
That's also possible.
They might not own anything.
Right.
You know, and that's it. That's the other thing that I think it's that mindset of just like, I'm not doing what I should be doing. That is more the problem than the actual dollars, the actual hard dollars. Because you said you guys couldn't do that. Well, yeah, you could.
We could.
If you wanted to.
Yeah, and
if that was your priority.
That's what my husband says. He always says, well, we could do that. Is that a priority? Is that something we want to do? Do we want to take out a loan or go into debt or whatever it is to do that? And my answer is always no.
No.
Because I don't know. I'm not
That's not your path.
Exactly.
And and I think there's absolutely no shame in someone who values having a new car every few years versus someone who doesn't. My beef is always with the folks who don't set that as a priority and then budget appropriately for that priority, because if what you're doing is going into debt, then that's actually not a priority. It's actually just something that you're insisting on doing when you actually can't afford it.
You shouldn't do it. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, so I do want to note, like I said, that none of those activities that we engage with money are inherently negative.
Right.
And I also want to reiterate that this money dysmorphia can really affect you at any income level.
Oh, yeah.
So I think there are so many stories about people who literally have millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and are still workaholics. They're working for more. They have this feeling that they could lose it all at any moment, like all of those types of scenarios. And so, and I'm sure that is very similar to someone who, or that anxiety is very similar to someone who is dependent on a job and dependent on that cash flow, and and feels at any moment it could topple over for them as well. So we're all kind of in the same boat with this, and I think that the few examples that we've talked about where Gen Z and millennials can overspend or feel inadequate because of social media, people with families constantly comparing, feeling behind, and even high earners feeling like they're living paycheck to paycheck because they're just trying to keep up with all of the different expenses that are necessary to essentially prove the social proof that they are who they are and they make what they make. That is all super stressful across an entire lifespan, right? When you're young, when you're building your family, when you're building your wealth, and even when you're wealthy, if you allow this to be kind of in your mind space, it can affect you across an entire lifetime.
Yeah, I personally don't like to have a lot of anxiety around money. In my 20s, I got into credit card debt. I think it was like $8,000 to $10,000 of credit card debt. That's quite a bit. Quite a bit, yeah.
What were you spending on? I'm so curious.
So I had very low-paying jobs. In journalism jobs starting out typically don't pay great, especially at the time I was in print. A thing that doesn't really exist anymore so much. But I was making very little, and I think I bought a car that was a little too expensive for me. It wasn't anything fancy. Yeah. It was like an American-made car, but I think I probably should have gotten a little bit less expensive car. So I had a pretty high, compared to my salary, a pretty high car payment, and then just, I could basically cover rent and my car payment and a little bit of food every week. Anything else that I wanted, I would just put on my credit card. Yeah. So I think over the years it just built up and built up and built up. And
you're paying the minimum payment.
Exactly. I'm doing minimum payment. I'm transferring it occasionally. When I was 26, I moved to Texas, and I eventually got a better paying job, and I just started making bigger and bigger payments on that credit card, and I think I had it paid off within a year. Okay. And then within the next couple years I paid off my car loan. So I never had my electricity turned off or my car repossessed or anything like that. It wasn't like I was in dire straits. Right. But I just really hated having that debt. Yeah. And it was on me to pay it. I knew if I called up my parents and cried to them, they would be like, sorry, this is your own doing. Yeah. You're going to have to
get another job.
Right. Or just figure out a way to
stop spending that money.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Make a budget, whatever. So it was on me to pay it back. And so I don't like having that anxiety and stress around it. So I guess I'm probably less risk averse when it comes to money, and I'm more you know, like, let's save it. Yes, we can still, like, have fun and, you know, do things that we enjoy, like, you know, the occasional pedicure, the occasional concert, stuff like that, like going out to eat, all of those things. Like, we still enjoy life, but I don't want to start making what I would consider bad decisions around money just so I can have, I don't know, a really fancy car, or just so I can belong to a really fancy country club or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
no, I know exactly what you're saying. And I think what you're talking about is as you're earning more money, you're not expanding your lifestyle to meet that money or that or that idea of what you should be doing if you were making that money. That's actually a really healthy thing, to feel that anxiety, to feel that, like, is it just us that aren't like driving around in the like tip top whatever, but then keep that, even have the conversation with your spouse about that, laugh about it, and then go, you know what, we're staying the course, because these are the things that we value. These are the things that we need to be spending our time and money on. And you know, honestly, resting in the idea that there's nothing you don't know. There's something going on there. Like you're saying, it's either they have family money, or they're really in debt, or they make like a ton more money, than you think, and you know, that's cool too. Like if that's, you know, obviously I know we wouldn't begrudge anybody working hard and making money and doing, but I think the key is not everybody's working hard and has the money to afford that stuff. And so since we can't distinguish necessarily between the ones who have it and the ones who are, you know, 26 going to the Hamptons and spending $4,000, we just have to kind of be secure in our own spending, in our own circumstances, and what we feel obligated to do, because as income increases, there is a natural tendency for people to increase their spending alongside it.
And I mean, I certainly spend more money now than I did in my 20s, but I have 2 children.
Right.
I have, you know, I'm married. I'm buying way more groceries for 4 people, not 1 person. You know, I mean, I'm not renting anymore. We have a mortgage. Like, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's all okay. And I think, you know, it's when you make the big lifestyle shifts. It's actually, there's a term for it in financial planning called lifestyle creep, or really lifestyle inflation is the technical term, because, you know, as the years go on, your lifestyle kind of continues to naturally expand. So having that conversation with yourself and going, okay, am I buying groceries for 4 and not 1, or am I buying now all organic groceries for 4 and not 1? You know what I'm saying? So there's nothing wrong with doing either of those things, but obviously one has a higher cost, and you really need to start looking at those types of things, because those are the places, honestly, where if you are going to eliminate some of your anxiety around spending too much or something like that, those are the places where you could actually cut and feel a little more secure as you do. So I think you have something to celebrate whenever you see somebody driving along. It's like, oh, you know, not just comparing yourself to them, but actually celebrating the win of, we know what we're doing. We've got this. Hope they have enough to retire on.
That's the other thing, just thinking about the future and, you know, the money that you spend now. I don't know, that's why it was just so interesting to me to read that article and to learn that, like, young people are being told, like, screw it, just spend it all. And I'm just like, no, don't do that.
So going back to the generation thing, so the young people are being told, just, you know, you're never gonna get the American dream, so just, like, screw it, just spend what you got. And like we're saying, the people who are building families, building wealth, are like, oh gosh, are we keeping up? High earners or people close to retirement are wondering if they are doing the right things or making the right moves. But we're talking about retirement now. even people in retirement suffer from this.
Oh, I'm sure.
Even people in retirement wonder if they have enough. Have they done enough? Can they spend it? Is this okay?
I know.
So I do think that it's something that we're probably going to battle with just as humanity.
And I think about that. I'm like, okay, so when I retire, if I have X amount of money, is that enough? Because you don't know how long you're going to live.
No.
So it's sort of,
it steals your joy.
It does.
Because you're hesitant to actually do the things that you've worked all this time to get to this point.
I know.
And then you're not going to spend the money? Really?
Yeah.
So it is a really weird dynamic, I think, that affects people, like I said, throughout the whole cycle of their lives.
I go to a gym where I'm one of the youngest people there. It's a lot of older people, mostly women. And it is so amazing. I love seeing it. Like, a lot of these women, they're in their, like, 50s, I'm late 50s, 60s, and their kids are grown.
Yeah.
A lot of them are, they finished college. They've done all that. They have their lives to themselves now, basically.
Yeah.
And they are doing... they're taking amazing trips. They're spending their time the way they want to spend it. They're doing all kinds of things with their friends or their partners and just really just soaking in the joy of life and this next act.
Good.
And I love...
What great role models.
I love seeing that. I'm like, okay, and I don't ask them, financial questions, but I'm like, okay, well, obviously you've got a little bit of money and you're able to do this. And it's just really inspiring. It's like, okay, I've got the 401k, I've got the savings, I'm doing what you're supposed to be doing. I'm pretty sure these women did the same, and now they're able to reap the rewards of that. And it's sort of like, it's motivation, you know? It's like, okay, if I just stay on track and I live within my means and I, do what I've been doing, it's going to pay off eventually. The kids will be grown, and it'll be me and my husband, and we can go do those things that we love doing.
No secret sauce. They didn't get to that point. And they're in the same boat. If either they have done all of the work to get there and be comfortable, or they might be, a little bit delusional in theirs.
I have no idea.
Who knows, right? But I think, like you're saying, seeing what it is that you actually want and that you actually do value, and then setting your own course on that makes it way easier to kind of navigate all of this, because you can feel any sort of way, and I think that's all legitimate. It is totally legitimate to be like, oh gosh, or oh, I should just do whatever. But I would say to wrap this into a kind of a bow, that my number one thing for dealing with all of this is to budget, to really step through what you value in life, what your priorities are, make a budget. And then, honestly, after that, I really don't care where you're spending your money.
Right.
If you have a budget that lets you get to retirement fully funded, that lets you pay for your kids' college or support your kids' college, that lets you buy a home if that's what you're interested in, have a car and not get it repossessed. You're doing all of those things, and then you have extra money to do whatever you want with, absolutely go out and do whatever you want with it, I do think some of the nihilistic view of the kids is disturbing, because this is the moment where they could make the most impact on their future, just literally by saving $50 to $100 a month. You could literally be a millionaire in a hot second if you start that young. So that's why it's so devastating to me to hear the frivolous, we're never gonna get there sort of situation. I'm a numbers gal. You put that number in a spreadsheet with some carried interest, and that's a millionaire waiting to happen.
That's cool,
and same with us, as we are right now, however long we've got until we're ready to retire, put that into a plan and have a budget around that plan, And I swear it makes you feel so much better about any spending that you do, because it's either in service of the plan, or you know that the plan is going to remain intact even if you make this splurge, or even if you do this thing, you know?
Yeah.
And so starting with a budget is my kind of mental health
That's so great.
reminder for everybody. And I mean, it really helps whether you make a lot or a little, or you have dysmorphic tendencies on the spending side or on the saving side. So I really hope that everybody just goes out and just does a budget today.
Yeah, that would be great.
It would be fabulous. And if you need any help with that, there are plenty of free tools online. Google it. You could even ask an AI chatbot. I was reading a little blurb the other day about a lady who reduced her $23,000 debt within a year by talking to an AI chatbot about her purchases and spending, and about how to make money, like little tips for making, $100 here and there, and reduced her debt.
That's
just
so cool.
being mindful about it. So that's what we're here to do, guys.
That's
Financial
so great.
therapy.
Yeah,
Minding your money.
Technology.
Yeah, exactly. Use the tools you've got, and hopefully help yourself. So, well, thanks so much to my guest.
Thank you so much,
and
Lena.
to everyone listening in or watching the show. Don't forget to like us, give us a hopefully great review, and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. We do love hearing from you, so text your feedback and questions for the show, and I'll be back next week with another episode.
Thank you, Lena. This was fun.
Yay! Bye, everyone.
Bye.